Well, hello enemies and book lovers, my name is Ash and welcome back to my channel. We are here for my June wrap up. All the books I read in June. Now, I didn't read a whole lot, I DNF'd a bit, but let's just get over that. Let's just talk about it quickly. June was an okay month. I have to be honest though, I DNF'd more books than I actually read, which is not the best, not ideal, but I was hoping I'd get more read in June. I just didn't really feel like I was in the mood to read. So I did my best. So I DNF'd 3 books, although I did rate one of them because I almost finished it. So I gave one book 3.5 stars, one book 4 stars, and one book 5 stars, which honestly isn't that bad. This is actually a pretty good reading month for me. I tend to give more books 3.5, 4 stars than anything else. So a 4 to 5 in the same month is pretty good. So I will take that as a win at least. In regards to the book themselves, let me just go over some of them a bit briefly. The DNFs, I'll go a little bit faster than the other books, but let's just talk about what I read. Let's start with the manga, because I'm going to make this really quick. Obviously, as I always do, I am reading the Black Butler series. I read volume 27 and 28 in June, and honestly, the series is getting better. I feel like the arcs before this was kind of boring to me. Some of them weren't that interesting. I feel like they were kind of just like pointless in my opinion. But the most recent books, the past, I think like 2 onward, so from 27 to the one I'm currently on, I think I just finished volume 30 yesterday. I've been really enjoying them a lot. I'm assuming that most people finish a manga volume in one sitting. I sometimes take around 2 if I'm just not really feeling it, but I have been really just eating these up. So I've been really liking the series now. Where I'm currently at, I only have 4 volumes left to finish, or catch up to the series, I mean. It's still ongoing. It's been like over a decade they've been still doing these manga volumes. So I'm almost caught up to where they are right now. There are 34 volumes. I'm on 30. Well, I just finished 30, so I only have 4 left. I'm very excited about it. Yeah, this is Black Butler by Yana Toboso. I've mentioned that a few times already, so I'm not going to go too far over it, but it's following CL Phantom Hive, who is a young man, and he is in charge of his family's estate, which is people that make toys, and he has a demon as a butler, and his name is Sebastian, and I love him so much, and here he is. I love him dearly. It's an interesting series. If you don't mind kind of just shenanigans throughout more serious plot-based topics, I would recommend it. I think that the series starts off kind of YA. It's getting a lot more adult now. There's a lot more graphic things. They're still off-page, but there's a lot of insinuation of very dark topics. I mean, children literally being tossed off of certain heights and children being placed within an area that adults are taking advantage of them very heavily, like children, and it's dark topics, like I mentioned. Later on in the series especially. I'm almost caught up, which is exciting because that means I can actually continue Berserk and Attack on Titan and then maybe start another series. Now let's move on to my DNFs. I'm going to go with the ones I DNF'd early on, so I don't have much to talk about, and then I'll go to the one I rated because I almost finished it. So let's start off with the one I DNF'd the fastest, and that is The Lightning Struck Heart by TJ Klune. Listen, I tried. I heard some people said that they really liked it. Some people were unsure about how they felt about it. I literally, I think, read 5 pages, and I know you might be thinking to yourself, 5 pages isn't enough to really, you know, have enough of an idea to if you like a book or don't like a book. And I kind of agree, but at the same time, I couldn't do it. I literally just couldn't do it. The beginning of the book just felt really juvenile. There was a lot of like sexual humor in my opinion, and I can't even explain it, but there's just constant sensual humor in a way that's not even funny to me. I don't like books that, or any type of media that tries to be funny, like when they're actually avidly trying to be, and it just annoys me personally. I just don't like it, and so it just wasn't really jiving with me. I didn't like what was happening. Like it wasn't interesting to me. I know it was only a few pages. It was less than a chapter, but I just couldn't. I was forcing myself to read. At this like 2nd page, I was already forcing myself to read it, and just not for me, I suppose. TJ Klune, I don't know if I actually really liked any of his books. I read Wolf Song by him and the 2nd book in the Wolf Song series, and I still didn't really love those books. So I'm not sure if it's just his writing or if it's just me. I do want to try other works of his, even though again, he's had problematic things in the past. I will probably just get his books from the library, which is what I'm doing right now anyway. I have never actually bought a book from him before. It's always been library books. So I'm probably just going to continue that and eventually maybe try other works from him, but I'm feeling like I might not like his writing, which is really unfortunate considering the fact that he's so popular and well beloved, especially with the House of the Cerulean Sea, whatever it's called, the Cerulean Sea book, which is also the one that kind of has the controversy around it. That is the one I feel like I hear the most amount of talk about and the one that people talk about the most. So I want to maybe try that book eventually. Again, from my library. I think that'll be the last time I'll actually give him a shot. If I don't like that book, I'm just done with TJ Klune. It's not that I don't want to like his books, it's just that they just don't really jive well with me. But this one, it just felt more juvenile, too young for me. Even though I don't think it's actually a juvenile book, I think it's supposed to be for adults. I couldn't do it. So I just had to DNF it. I did genuinely try. I couldn't do it, okay? I did try. kind of. Not much, but I still tried. The next book I got 40% of the way through, which is actually not too bad, and I think I might have been able to continue this one because there was good things about it, but it just, overall, I just didn't feel like I cared enough, and I didn't want to pick it up, and I just felt like I was making myself pick it up, which is always a good indicator for me to DNF a book. If I feel like I'm forcing myself to read or make myself read a book, it's a good way for me to realize maybe I should just DNF it. And that was The Bright and the Pale by let me just read this because I'm not gonna be able to do it. Jessica Rumanowski. I got 40% of the way through this, and it's a YA polar fantasy. I love the environment. We're following two different characters who I kind of like their relationship. They're like childhood friends, and maybe this is like a hint of spoilers, so you want to skip ahead like 5 seconds, but she believed that her friend from childhood was dead, but he ends up coming back and he's alive. And so there is like a romance between them. There's kind of like that childhood friends to lovers kind of thing, kind of sprinkled. And I actually quite liked it. There are scenes between these two characters. The romance was actually kind of like the strongest point for me personally. But everything else wasn't really interesting enough for me to continue it, so I just don't think I'm going to be giving this a shot again. I don't think so. I don't want to keep books on my shelves that I'm DNFing, or I also think that YA just isn't as for me as it used to be. I used to love YA, and I just don't love it anymore, and this was a book box book, and so I tend to not really like those anymore because a lot of them were YA, which is why I canceled them. I haven't had a book box book in like a long time. I don't have book subscriptions anymore. It's been years, but I need to get through the books, and if I don't like them, I'll give them to my used bookstore or little libraries, so that way someone else can have them. And usually they're probably really happy about it because it's signed editions, they're nice editions, and so I don't mind giving them to people that would enjoy them, because I definitely think there are people that will like this book. It is a really cool environment. I love the environment. The polar fantasy is really cool. I do like, again, the romance. It just wasn't enough. It just felt kind of, I don't want to be mean, but like a little bit bland, and it felt like it just needed a little bit more, and I don't really know how to explain it, but I just feel like I needed more. So unfortunately didn't love this book, but it has potential. I actually do think it is pretty good, and if you want to read a polar fantasy and you like YA, give it a shot. Just wasn't for me. Not really into YA anymore, and the writing just wasn't strong enough, but still has potential. I think it actually had interesting parts to it. That's why I read almost half of it, but it just wasn't enough to keep me kind of engaged to continue it. The next DNF was actually one I did rate. I gave this a 3.5 stars, and I actually think it was a good book. I just realized this genre is not for me. I should have known. I wanted to give it one more chance, and I think I'm just going to stop reading historical romances because it doesn't seem like it's something that I enjoy. This is A Lady for a Duke by Alexis Hall. I wanted to love this book so much. Again, I think it's just me and historical fictions. I don't think it was this book in particular. It was a me thing. Definitely was a me thing. I think there were so many good elements to this book, and I think that there's just strong characters in this book, and I just loved the relationship between the two main characters. In this story, we're following Viola, I'm just gonna call her Viola? Oh god, I'm so bad at names. I'm so bad at pronouncing anything. I'm so sorry. I'm just gonna call her Viola. Viola is our female main character of the story. She used to be in the war a long time ago and had believed that she did not survive it. When she was in the army, it was just before she kind of like transitioned and found herself, and she now calls herself a woman, and so before the army that was not the case. And so when she kind of was able to leave that place behind and leave that part of herself behind, she kind of returned to the world and met back with Gracewood. Gracewood is a character that actually knew her when she was in the army and prior to that, and they had a friendship back then, and so they were really good friends. And Gracewood has been going through a lot of grief, thinking that his friend had passed away, when in reality it wasn't really the case. And there's this relationship between the two of them before he finds out who Viola is, and it's very sad, tragic, but beautiful at the same time. And I really love how Gracewood handles everything eventually. Obviously there's gonna be a little bit of bumpy road along the way, but I think that was really well done. Gracewood also has a cane, and he had to deal with a injury from his past, and so that is a really interesting concept to this book. I like the strong characters in this book. I think they are one of the best parts of this book, the characters themselves, but I just wasn't really feeling it. Within the first week they already wanted to get married, and I understand that this is a historical romance, so marriage is a lot faster, but I am a slow burn person, and yes, slow burn does happen in historical fictions because, like, of course, they can't really do much. They have to wait a long time to do things. But, like, if you're gonna get married within a week because you can't stop doing things with each other, then it's just not that, it's not that slow burn to me. Like, I like when books take a long time, or they take a long time to get to know each other. And I know they had a prior relationship to this, but still, I don't know. It just wasn't for me. I just don't think historical romances are for me. I don't know if it's like the pacing. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's like the old values. I don't know why. I just don't like the whole idea of we can't do anything together until we're married, or women can't be alone with men because of these reasons. And I just don't think I like that kind of stuff anymore. I think I'm just like realizing I just don't like the idea of that. I like fantasy and women being able to do whatever they want, and I kind of like that freedom from female characters. And so I don't know if I like historical romances. I just don't think I'm going to read a historical romance again unless someone has a recommendation for like one they think I would like. I think I'm done with historical romances. I've read I think around 3 or 4, and I think I DNF'd almost all of them. If I didn't, then I didn't enjoy them very much. And I think I'm just gonna stop reading them because I don't want to dislike them. And this was probably the one that would have worked for me. If anything would have worked for me, it would have been this book, Lady for a Duke. Because it didn't, I think it's just enough for me. There was some beautiful quotes in this book, amazing writing. Again though, it's just the genre doesn't work for me, and unfortunately that's why I DNF'd it. I made it to 70%, so I still did rate it, and I gave it 3.5, which I think is pretty reasonable. I still think it had good elements to it, but just not for me. Didn't finish it, DNF'd it, and I'm gonna stop historical romances from now on, which is sad. I have so many other genres I read. It's not that big of a deal, I don't think. So yeah, it's fine. With that though, we only have 2 books left to talk about, so let's talk about those books in total. The next book I gave a 4 stars to was Hell Followed With Us by Andrew Joseph White. This, like I mentioned, is a 4 stars. This is technically a YA, although there were a lot of elements within it that kind of made me feel like it was more adult. Not necessarily. It kind of feels like a mixture between YA and adult. Maybe almost new adult, I don't know. Mostly the reason why is because of the content matter. The gore is pretty intense, it's pretty detailed. The body horror is also pretty detailed and intense. There's parts of this that made me a little bit queasy, which is pretty impressive because I like horror and stuff like that, so that's pretty impressive, to be honest. And it is YA though. I think it's still necessarily okay for someone that's younger to read, but it does have some darker elements. So DV, for example, is also talked about in this book, or kind of like on page within this book, and it's very difficult to read. There's also a lot of religious trauma and things around the church and religious teachings. So if you're someone that doesn't like seeing like negative things about religion, probably definitely not for you. There's a lot of that in this book. I don't mind it. I can see good and bad within it, but I also went to Catholic school for 6 years. For me, it's kind of therapeutic to read books with religious drama because like I didn't experience that technically, but I kind of know the negative sides, and it's nice to kind of see a book that's kind of trying to push back against that negative side to it. And so I personally like that myself. This is a post-apocalyptic world, and their main character in this story is Benji. He's transgender, and I think the best part in this book to me is the very subtle, how do I explain this? The body horror elements within this book sometimes has little parallels with Benji as a trans character. I loved that. And honestly, I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it. I think that was just like beautifully and sadly done at the same time. I think it was so good. The fact that Benji was going through a transition of his own body against his will, obviously, so it's not the same thing. But that type of transition and the way that people react to it and everything, it is a very interesting concept. I like how it's done. I don't know if the author intended to do that or if it's unintentional. I'm going to assume it's probably intentional to some extent. But I really loved the way that the character Benji went through his own struggles while having his personal struggles. So there's an exterior transition as well as his own, and I really liked that idea. Again, still very sad and upsetting at times, but it's so good. I really love this book. It was so strong and impactful. The only negative thing I'll say is that there's so many side characters, and there is found family elements, which I really love, but I just didn't really feel that attached to the side characters. I felt more interested in Benji himself and his slight partner, I guess you can say, that you see later on in the book. I won't really talk about that though, because I want that to be something that you eventually see later on. I think the biggest part of this book though is Benji and his kind of struggles with his own thoughts and his own acceptance of himself and meeting other people. We're following him in this very religious kind of environment. He eventually gets out of that and goes into a group of people who are very like LGBTQIA plus positive. It's a beautiful community, a bunch of different types of people and walks of life and people who kind of accept him instantly. And there's like that found family element that's very strong within this book, very, very prevalent within this book, but they're trying to fight back against the original group that wants to get Benji back. And so it is a very powerful book. I'm not gonna say anything else. I don't want to say anything about what happens with Benji or like anything about him. I will say though that he is very, very different than everyone else because he has dealt with some transitioning, like I said, that is exterior from the post-apocalyptic world. And yeah, I definitely recommend this if you like type of body horror and stuff like that, but obviously be careful if you don't like that kind of stuff because it is pretty graphic in this book, but it's still well done. But yeah, there is on page like teenagers losing their lives in very graphic ways. If you're sensitive to that stuff, don't recommend it, but if you don't mind that kind of stuff, it is a very strong book and I really liked it. I really want to read more from Andrew Joseph White, so I'm hoping I could do that throughout the next maybe a year or so. Pick up some of their books from now on because I kind of want to try them out because I like this writing style. It was really good in my opinion, so I want to continue them and read more from this author. Okay, I forgot another book. I forgot to add another book in this video. So technically my ratings were 2 4-star books. I will obviously put that in the beginning of the video that I forgot a book. I forgot to add Ensnared by Rebecca Quinn. It was my secret project kind of thing. It was my romance raffle book that I put in my prior video to this one, so you already probably seen that one. Or if you don't really care about it, that's fine. I gave it a 4 stars. I liked it. I'm not gonna talk much about it though because I did a whole reading vlog and like 20 plus minutes of that one book. So I'm going to say that it was a fun book. It was a post-apocalyptic, why choose, kind of, you know, has some certain elements of the certain characters, the guys. There are 5 guys, and I quite liked it. I personally enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars as well. So I liked the book. Nothing really to complain about other than the fact that I wanted to read the next one because it ends off on a way that I wasn't upset about. But hey, like, not upset because it's bad, but like I wanted to continue the series, but I don't have the time for that. So that's upsetting. But I did really like Ensnared. I definitely recommend it for people that like Why Choose. And if you want to get some very unique male characters that are not all the same and cookie cutter, then I really recommend it. Love it, love it, love it. But let's move on to our final book, because this is the one I gave a 5 stars to. And that, my friends, you might already know, is Words of Radiance by Radiance. I also have a reading vlog for this book, so I don't really have to talk too much about it, but I give it a 5 stars. I will say, though, it wasn't a perfect 5 stars, and it's a little bit blasphemous because I know people love this book so much and they adore it. There are some negatives, I will say, but I can't really say them because it feels like it would be a spoiler to kind of mention what those things are. But I don't think this was perfect. I think there are definitely some things I may be like very tiny little critiques. But for the most part, it was beautiful, amazingly done, well-paced. You wouldn't think that a book over 1,000 pages would be a well-paced book, or it would have a lot of moments within it that are just boring and you don't really care about and they could have cut things out. But honestly, I think Brandon Sanderson is so good at writing scenes that might not seem that important and somehow have some important elements to it for the series. So I love it. I love the character building. I love almost every single scene in this world so far. I just adore. Are there some characters I don't care as much for? Sure. But for the most part, I love them. I'm afraid for these characters' lives as we are getting over the halfway mark soon. I'm going to be going on to the 3rd book, Oathbringer, soon, which means that the lives of our characters are not going to be set in stone anymore. I think that at some point they will start to lose their lives. I think maybe book 4 or 5 will definitely happen, but maybe Oathbringer, they're a little bit more safe. I have a little bit less hope for the last 2 books, but that being said, Words of Radiance itself, really well done. I had such a good time with it. Again, I have a whole reading vlog, spoiler filled, so I'm not going to talk too much about this one, but this one is the best book of June so far, hands down. It's going to be hard to really beat Stormlight Archive books if you have any other books throughout that month, so I do apologize to any other books that have to go against the Stormlight Archive, but yes, Words of Radiance is amazing. Again, very few criticisms. I still give it a 5 stars because I loved my time reading it. And with that, that is all the books I read in the month of June. I technically only completed 3. I almost finished a 4th one and I DNF'd 2.5, I guess I can say. So not the best reading month, I know, but it wasn't horrible. I still read 1,760 pages, which is not that much for me. I'll put up all the books I finished in this month. I don't really count graphic novels that much. It's not really the same as a novel. So I finished 2 graphic novels and 3 novels, which isn't too bad, especially considering that Stormlight Archive was like 600 pages of that. So I'm going to take that a little bit as a positive. I'm hoping that July I will be reading more. I'm already reading a bit more in July as of right now. So I'm hoping I will continue that path and just keep going. Usually the second half of the year is a lot less busy for me other than December, obviously. So I'm hoping that this means that the second half of the year I'll be able to kind of just fly through more books and I don't feel slumpy and I actually want to read the books I'm reading. I'm just hoping that happens because I want to do that. As the year is coming to a close, or not really, we're only halfway through the year. I know, but because we're getting to the second half of the year, I want to continue and finish series. And so I think I want to try prioritizing finishing series by the end of the year rather than starting or reading standalones. So I'm going to try doing that if I can. But until then, I will finish this video off here. So thank you so much for watching, as usual. It doesn't make sense for the current season, but it doesn't matter, right? It's fine. For the bright and the pale, let's put any type of snow type of emoji. A snowflake, mountain, anything they want to do, snowman. A wintry kind of emoji, because I kind of miss the winter right now. Like, I miss autumn. I need a bit of cold in my life because I'm tired of this heat. Like, is anyone else tired of the heat? Because I am. If you want to let me know how much or how well your reading month in June was, let me know. I am curious. June was okay for me, but hopefully it gets a bit better in July and onward. Thank you so much for watching as always. Have a great day. Have some amazing reads for the month of July, and I hope to see you all soon. Goodbye, everyone.